Attention! In this mock test, you will have 57 minutes to answer 50 multiple-choice questions. A minimum of 43 correct answers is required to pass. Do you wish to proceed? Yes.
What does it mean if you see a pedestrian with a dog that has a yellow or burgundy coat? The pedestrian is an older person. The pedestrian is a dog trainer. The pedestrian is colorblind. The pedestrian is deaf. You have to arrive on time for an appointment.
How should you plan for the journey?
Allow plenty of time for the trip. Plan to travel at busy times. Avoid roads with the national speed limit. Prevent other drivers from overtaking. Why is it dangerous to travel too close to the vehicle ahead? Your engine will overheat. Your mirrors will need adjusting. Your view of the road ahead will be restricted. Your sat-nav will be confused.
At an incident, how could you help a small child who isn't breathing?
Find their parents and explain what's happening.
Open their airway and begin CPR.
Put them in the recovery position and slap their back. Talk to them confidently until an ambulance arrives. You're involved in a crash.
What should you do to reduce the risk of fire?
Keep the engine running. Open the choke. Turn the fuel tap to reserve. Use the engine cut-out switch.
You're on a motorway that isn't subject to smart motorway regulations. When should you use the hard shoulder?
When you're stopping in an emergency. When you're leaving the motorway. When you're stopping for a rest. When you're joining the motorway.
What's likely to happen if you get cold and wet when you're riding a motorcycle?
Your concentration will be impaired. Your riding will improve. Your visor will freeze up. Your reactions will be quicker.
What should you do if you think the driver of the vehicle in front has forgotten to cancel their right indicator?
Flash your lights to alert the driver. Sound your horn before overtaking. Overtake on the left if there's room.
Stay behind and don't overtake. After a collision, someone is unconscious in their vehicle. When should you call the emergency services?
Only as a last resort, as soon as possible, after you've woken them up, after checking for broken bones. When should you use your vehicle's horn? To alert others to your presence, to allow you right of way, to greet other road users, to signal your annoyance.
What should you do when you're following a learner driver who stalls at a junction?
Be patient, as you expect them to make mistakes. Stay very close behind and flash your headlights.
Start to rev your engine if they take too long to restart. Immediately steer around them and drive on.
You're following a vehicle on a wet road. You stay a safe distance behind it. What should you do if a driver overtakes you and pulls into the gap you've left? Flash your headlights as a warning.
Try to overtake safely as soon as you can.
Drop back to regain a safe distance.
Stay close to the other vehicle until it moves on. What does this signal from a police officer mean to oncoming traffic?
Go ahead, stop, turn left, turn right.
What do you need before you can give someone a lift on your motorcycle? A motorcycle with an engine larger than 125 cc.
3 years motorcycle riding experience.
A motorcycle with extended mirror stalks.
A full motorcycle license. What does a sign with a brown background show? Tourist directions, primary roads, motorway routes,
minor roads. What must you do when the amber light is flashing at a pelican crossing?
Stop and wait for the green light. Stop and wait for the red light. Give way to pedestrians waiting to cross. Give way to pedestrians already on the crossing. You're riding a motorcycle along a country lane. What should you do if you come across cattle on the road? Ride up close behind them, rev your engine, give them plenty of room, sound your horn.
Why are young motorcyclists more likely to be involved in crashes? Because they're too cautious at junctions.
Because they ride in the middle of lanes. Because they're inexperienced. Because they ride in groups.
You're riding a motorcycle that doesn't have anti-lock brakes, ABS.
What should you do if you have to brake sharply and your motorcycle starts to skid? Continue braking and select a low gear. Apply the brakes harder for better grip. Select neutral and use the front brake only. Release and reapply the brakes. What does a red traffic light mean? You should stop unless turning left. Stop. If you're able to brake safely, you must stop and wait behind the stop line. Proceed with care. What does this sign mean? Tourist attraction. Beware of trains. Level crossing. Beware of trams. You're on a motorway at night.
When may you have your headlights switched off?
When there are vehicles close in front of you. When you're traveling below 50 miles per hour. When the motorway is lit. When your motorcycle is broken down on the hard shoulder. You're on a 3-lane motorway.
How should you overtake a slow-moving lorry in the middle lane if it's showing this sign? Cautiously approach the lorry, then overtake on either side.
Follow the lorry until you can leave the motorway. Use the right-hand lane and overtake the lorry normally. Approach with care and overtake on the left of the lorry.
What's the legal minimum depth of tread for motorcycle tires? 1 mm, 1.6 mm,
2.5 mm,
4 mm.
You're riding on an exposed stretch of motorway and there's a strong side wind. When should you anticipate the effect of the wind? As you approach a service area, when you overtake a large vehicle, when there's slow queuing traffic, as you approach an exit slip road. Which type of vehicle does this sign apply to? Wide vehicles, long vehicles, high vehicles, heavy vehicles. You're turning right at a large roundabout.
What should you do before you cross a lane to reach your exit? Take a lifesaver glance over your right shoulder.
Put on your right indicator.
Take a lifesaver glance over your left shoulder. Cancel the left indicator. When should you use the right-hand lane of a 3-lane dual carriageway?
When you're overtaking only. When you're overtaking or turning right. When you're using cruise control. When you're turning right only.
What should you do when you're approaching a bus that's signaling to move away from a bus stop?
Get past before it moves. Allow it to pull away, if it's safe to do so.
Flash your headlights as you approach. Signal left and wave the bus on.
What should the driver of the red car, arrowed, do? Wave towards the pedestrians who are waiting to cross. Wait for the pedestrian in the road to cross.
Quickly drive behind the pedestrian in the road.
Tell the pedestrian in the road she shouldn't have crossed.
When riding some motorcycles, your shoulders and arms can obstruct your view in the mirrors. What can you do to overcome this difficulty? Indicate earlier than normal.
Fit smaller mirrors.
Extend the mirror arms.
Brake earlier than normal.
What should you do when you're riding a motorcycle in very hot weather? Ride with your visor fully open.
Wear protective clothing. Wear trainers instead of boots. Slacken your helmet strap.
When will your overall stopping distance be increased?
When you're riding at night. When you're riding in fog. When you're riding with a passenger. When you're riding up a hill.
After riding through shallow flood water, you notice your motorcycle's brakes aren't working properly.
What would be the best way to dry them out? Ride slowly, braking lightly. Ride quickly, braking harshly. Stop and dry them with a cloth. Stop and wait for a few minutes. You're about to overtake. What should you do when you see this sign? Overtake the other driver as quickly as possible.
Move to the right to get a better view.
Switch your headlights on before overtaking. Hold back until you can see clearly ahead. How could you safeguard your motorcycle against the risk of fire? Keep water levels above maximum. Check out any strong smell of petrol. Avoid riding with a full tank of petrol. Use unleaded petrol. You're carrying a pillion passenger on your motorcycle. What should you adjust to allow for the extra weight? The preload on the front forks, the preload on the rear shock absorbers, the balance of the rear wheel, the front and rear wheel alignment. You arrive at the scene of a motorcycle crash. No other vehicle is involved. The rider is unconscious and lying in the middle of the road. What's the first thing you should do at the scene? Move the rider out of the road, warn other traffic, clear the road of debris,
Give the rider reassurance.
You're on a smart motorway.
What does it mean when a mandatory speed limit is displayed above the hard shoulder?
You shouldn't travel in this lane. The hard shoulder can be used as a running lane. You can park on the hard shoulder if you feel tired. You can pull up in this lane to answer a mobile phone.
When may you stop on the hard shoulder of a motorway?
Only in an emergency. If you feel tired and need to rest. If you've gone past your exit, to answer your mobile phone. What does this sign mean? Ring road. Mini roundabout. No vehicles.
Roundabout. What's the national speed limit on motorways for cars and motorcycles?
30 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour. Who is authorized to signal you to stop? A motorcyclist, a pedestrian, a police officer, a bus driver.
What should you do if you want to overtake a long, slow-moving vehicle on a busy road? Follow it closely and keep moving out to see the road ahead. Flash your headlights for the oncoming traffic to give way.
Stay behind until the driver waves you past. Keep well back so that you get a good view of the road ahead. You're about to overtake a group of horse riders.
What's most likely to scare the horses?
Your dipped headlights, giving arm signals, riding slowly, revving your engine.
What should you fit to your motorcycle if you're going abroad and you'll be riding on the right-hand side of the road?
Twin headlights, headlight deflectors, tinted yellow brake lights, tinted red indicator lenses. Where would you see this sign? Near a school crossing, at a playground entrance, on a school bus, at a pedestrians-only area. You're waiting at a level crossing. What must you do if a train passes but the lights keep flashing? Carry on waiting, phone the signal operator, edge over the stop line and look for trains, park and investigate.
Why is it recommended for a rider to make a lifesaver check before turning right?
To check for any overtaking traffic, to confirm that they're about to turn, to make sure the side road is clear, to check that the rear indicator is flashing.
Why are place names painted on the road surface?
To restrict the flow of traffic, to warn of oncoming traffic, to help you select the correct lane in good time, to prevent you from changing lanes.
Roundabout.